Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here. Our topic is control and coordination. We'll explore how living organisms manage and coordinate their activities. Over the next few slides, we'll cover key concepts, mechanisms, and examples that help us understand this fascinating aspect of biology. Let's get started. Let's take a closer look at movements in plants. Unlike animals, plants don't have a nervous system, but they still respond to stimuli through different mechanisms. For example, some plants can bend towards light or close their leaves when touched. This response is called a tropism, which is a growth movement caused by environmental stimuli. Now, moving on to reflex actions. Reflex actions are quick, automatic responses to stimuli that help protect us from harm. These involve a simple pathway called a reflex arc, which bypasses the brain and goes straight to the spinal cord for a rapid response. The structure of a neuron, which is a nerve cell, is essential here because it transmits messages quickly and efficiently. Understanding the human nervous system is key to grasping how our body responds to various stimuli. It includes the central nervous system, made up of the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which connects the rest of the body to the central system. In addition, endocrine glands play a crucial role in coordinating activities in our body by releasing hormones. These glands work alongside the nervous system to regulate functions like growth, metabolism, and stress response. So, in summary, whether through movements in plants or reflex actions in animals, the coordination of responses is vital for survival. The nervous system and endocrine glands work together to ensure our body reacts appropriately to the environment. Now let's talk about stimuli. These are the changes in the environment that living organisms respond to. Think of stimuli as signals or triggers from our surroundings. For example, things like heat, cold, sound, smell, taste, touch, pressure, gravity, and water. All of these are different types of stimuli that can affect an organism. Living things respond to these stimuli in various ways, often through body movements. For instance, when you touch something hot, you might pull your hand away. When it's dark, your eyes might adjust to see better. These responses help organisms survive and adapt to their environment. Understanding stimuli is key because it connects to how living beings interact with the world around them. It's a fundamental part of how life functions and responds to change. So, whenever we talk about behavior or survival, we're really discussing how organisms perceive and respond to stimuli. Now, let's explore how control and coordination happen in different organisms. In plants, this process is managed by chemical substances known as plant hormones or phytohormones. These hormones regulate various functions like growth, flowering, and responses to environmental stimuli. In animals, the control system is a bit more complex, involving the nervous system and the endocrine system. The nervous system provides rapid responses through electrical signals, while the endocrine system uses hormones to bring about slower, long-lasting effects. To respond appropriately to a stimulus, multiple organs need to work together seamlessly. This teamwork among organs to produce a coordinated response is what we call coordination. It's essential for the organism's survival and proper functioning, tying back to our overall theme of how living beings maintain internal balance and react to their environment. In animals, control and coordination are primarily managed by two systems, the nervous system and the endocrine system. The nervous system is responsible for rapid responses and quick communication within the body. It consists of the brain, which acts as the control center, the spinal cord that connects the brain to the rest of the body, and the nerves that carry signals to and from different parts of the body. These components work together to help animals respond swiftly to changes in their environment, ensuring they can move, find food, or escape from predators effectively. Understanding how these systems work together highlights the incredible efficiency of animal coordination and how vital they are for survival. Olfactory receptors in the nose are responsible for detecting smells, allowing us to perceive different odors around us. For example, there are tangoreceptors in the skin that detect touch, helping us feel textures and pressure. Moving on, motor nerves are a crucial part of our nervous system because they carry information from the brain and spinal cord to our muscles and glands, which are known as effectors. These effectors respond to the signals they receive, enabling us to move or produce certain responses. In addition, there are phonoreceptors in the ears that detect sound, allowing us to hear. It's important to remember that sensory nerves are the ones that carry information from our sense organs, like the eyes, ears, skin, tongue, and nose, back to the brain or spinal cord for processing. For example, gustatory receptors in the tongue help us taste, while photoreceptors in the eyes enable us to see by detecting light. All these components, receptors, sensory nerves, motor nerves, and effectors, work together seamlessly. Receptors are the sense organs that receive stimuli, whether it's light, sound, taste, touch, or smell. They then pass this information through sensory nerves to the brain or spinal cord. From there, motor nerves send signals out to effectors, our muscles and glands, to produce appropriate responses. This interconnected system is fundamental to how we perceive and interact with our environment, tying back to the overall theme of how our nervous system processes sensory information and coordinates actions. Let's take a closer look at the human nervous system. This system is essentially the body's communication network, responsible for transmitting signals between different parts of the body and the brain. It controls everything from our voluntary movements to involuntary functions like breathing and heart rate. The nervous system is divided into two main parts: the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, made up of all the nerves that branch out from the spinal cord to the rest of the body. Together, these components work seamlessly to help us respond to our environment, process information, and maintain homeostasis. Understanding this system is key because it underpins how we think, feel, and function every day. Let's take a closer look at the human nervous system. This system is essentially the body's communication network, responsible for transmitting information between the brain, spinal cord, and the rest of the body. It's what allows us to perceive sensations, control movements, and even think and feel. The nervous system is divided into two main parts: the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which encompasses all the nerves that branch out from the spinal cord to the limbs and organs. Understanding how these parts work together helps us appreciate how complex and efficient our body's responses are. Whether we're reacting to a hot surface or recalling a memory, the nervous system is actively coordinating those processes seamlessly. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how this incredible system underpins our every action and thought, making it a fundamental part of our overall health and functioning. Now, let's take a closer look at the parts of the nervous system. The peripheral nervous system, or PNS, is made up of the cranial nerves, which originate from the brain, and the spinal nerves, which come from the spinal cord. These nerves are responsible for transmitting signals between the central nervous system and the rest of the body. On the other hand, the central nervous system, or CNS, consists of the brain and spinal cord. It's essentially the control center of our body, processing information and coordinating responses. Putting it all together, the human nervous system is divided into these two main parts: the CNS and the PNS, working together to keep us functioning smoothly. Understanding these components helps us grasp how the nervous system manages everything from simple reflexes to complex thoughts. Let's talk about the central nervous system. This is essentially the control center of our body. It includes the brain and the spinal cord, which work together to process all the information coming from our body and then coordinate our responses. The brain is responsible for things like thinking, memory, emotions, and decision-making, while the spinal cord acts as a communication highway, transmitting signals between the brain and the rest of the body. Understanding how this system functions is crucial because it underpins everything from basic reflexes to complex actions. It really highlights how interconnected and sophisticated our body systems are in maintaining health and responding to our environment. Let's now take a closer look at the peripheral nervous system. This part of our nervous system is essential because it connects the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, to the rest of the body. In other words, it acts as a communication highway, transmitting signals between our brain and the muscles, skin, and internal organs. The peripheral nervous system is made up of nerves and ganglia, that is, bundles of nerve fibers and clusters of nerve cell bodies. These nerves are classified into two main types: sensory nerves, which carry information from the body to the central nervous system, and motor nerves, which send commands from the brain and spinal cord to the muscles and glands. Understanding this system is crucial because it helps us see how our body responds to various stimuli and maintains homeostasis. It's the bridge that allows us to feel sensations, move around, and react to our environment. So, in the context of our overall presentation, the peripheral nervous system highlights how interconnected and responsive our bodies truly are, enabling us to interact with the world effectively. Messages pass through the nerve cell in the form of chemical and electrical signals, which we call nerve impulses. These impulses are essential for communication within the nervous system. The dendrites, which are the branching structures of the neuron, receive this information from other neurons. Once they receive the signals, they initiate a chemical reaction that generates an electrical impulse. This electrical signal then travels along the axon, carrying the message forward. Now, at the core of this process is the neuron itself. The neuron is both the structural and functional unit of the nervous system, meaning it's the basic building block that enables us to think, feel, and move. The cell body, called the cyton, contains the nucleus and cytoplasm, which are vital for the cell's functioning and maintenance. From the cell body extend several branch structures known as dendrites. They're like the neuron's antennae, picking up signals from neighboring cells. The axon is a long nerve fiber that transmits impulses away from the cell body. It's usually covered by a protective layer called the myelin sheath, which helps speed up the electrical signals, making communication more efficient. And when it comes to how neurons connect with each other, the junction where two neurons meet is called a synapse. This is where the chemical signals are transferred from one neuron to the next, allowing the entire nervous system to work seamlessly. Understanding these components helps us see how messages are transmitted rapidly and accurately throughout our bodies, which is fundamental to everything from reflexes to complex thoughts. Let's take a closer look at nerve endings and the structure of a neuron, also known as a nerve cell. Nerve endings are the points where neurons communicate with other neurons, muscles, or glands. They are essential for transmitting signals throughout the body, making them crucial for our sensory experiences and motor functions. When we think about the structure of a neuron, it's fascinating to see how specialized each part is for its role. The neuron consists of several key components: the cell body, dendrites, and an axon. The cell body contains the nucleus and is the control center of the neuron. Dendrites are like tiny branches that receive signals from other neurons, while the axon is a long extension that transmits signals away from the cell body. At the end of the axon, we find the nerve endings, which release neurotransmitters to pass the message along. Understanding this structure helps us appreciate how signals are efficiently received, processed, and transmitted in our nervous system, connecting all the different parts of our body to function smoothly. Let's take a closer look at how messages are transmitted through neurons. Essentially, neurons communicate with each other via electrical and chemical signals. When a neuron receives a signal strong enough, it generates an electrical impulse called an action potential. This impulse travels along the neuron's axon, moving toward the synapse. At the synapse, the electrical signal triggers the release of chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters cross the tiny gap, or synaptic cleft, and bind to receptors on the next neuron, passing along the message. This process is fundamental to how our nervous system coordinates everything from simple reflexes to complex thoughts. Understanding this transmission helps us see how intricate and efficient our brain's communication network truly is. Now let's take a closer look at the hindbrain, which is crucial for many involuntary functions. The medulla, for example, is responsible for controlling vital processes like heartbeat, blood pressure, swallowing, coughing, sneezing, and vomiting. These are automatic actions that keep us alive without us even thinking about them. Then there's the pons, which mainly controls respiration, or breathing. It works together with the medulla to regulate our breathing patterns seamlessly. The cerebellum is another key part of the hindbrain. It's primarily responsible for coordinating our body movements, maintaining balance, and ensuring good posture. Without it, smooth and coordinated movement would be difficult. Overall, the hindbrain, which includes the cerebellum, pons, and medulla, forms the foundation for many of our involuntary actions. It's like the body's automatic control center, making sure everything runs smoothly without us needing to actively think about it. This highlights just how vital the hindbrain is for our daily functioning. Let's take a closer look at the human brain. It's truly an incredible organ, responsible for everything we do, from thinking and feeling to controlling our movements and even our basic bodily functions. The brain is made up of billions of neurons that communicate through complex networks. These connections are what enable us to learn, remember, and adapt. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how crucial the brain is in shaping our behavior and experiences. Understanding its structure and functions helps us appreciate the complexity behind human cognition and emotion. It also highlights the importance of protecting and nurturing this vital organ. Let's take a closer look at the human brain. This incredible organ is truly the control center of our bodies. It manages everything from our basic survival functions, like breathing and heartbeat, to complex thoughts, emotions, and decision-making processes. When we talk about the brain, we're really referring to a highly organized network of neurons and structures that work together seamlessly. The brain's ability to adapt and learn, what we call neuroplasticity, is a key reason why humans are capable of such remarkable growth and innovation. Understanding how the brain functions helps us appreciate the importance of nurturing our mental health and cognitive abilities, which ties back to the overall theme of optimizing human potential. The spinal cord begins at the base of the brain, specifically the brainstem, and extends downward through the vertebral column. It's essentially the main communication highway between the brain and the rest of the body. You might be surprised to learn that there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves branching out from the spinal cord, each serving different regions of the body. These nerves are crucial because they transmit sensory information from the body to the brain and carry motor commands back from the brain to muscles and organs. Another important point is that the spinal cord isn't just a conduit for messages. It also controls reflex actions. These are automatic, quick responses to certain stimuli, like pulling your hand away from a hot surface, which happen without involving the brain directly. This quick response mechanism is vital for protecting us from harm. Connecting all of this to our overall understanding, the spinal cord is a central part of the nervous system's communication network. It ensures that signals are efficiently transmitted and that reflexes happen instantaneously, keeping us safe and responsive to our environment. Now, let's talk about reflex action. A reflex action is a quick, automatic response that happens without us even thinking about it. It's involuntary, meaning we don't consciously control it. For example, if we touch something hot, we immediately pull our hand away. This process involves sensory nerves detecting the heat, sending a message to the spinal cord, and then motor nerves quickly signaling the muscles to move. This rapid response helps protect us from injury. Reflex actions are crucial for our survival because they occur instantly and without conscious effort, connecting perfectly to the overall idea of how our nervous system helps us react swiftly to our environment. Let's talk about reflex actions. These are quick, automatic responses our body has to certain stimuli. For example, when you touch something hot, you immediately pull your hand away without even thinking. This rapid response is a reflex action. It's crucial because it helps protect us from injury. Reflexes are typically mediated by the spinal cord, which allows for a faster response than if the signal had to go all the way to the brain. This mechanism is an essential part of our nervous system, ensuring we react swiftly to potential dangers. Understanding reflex actions highlights how our body is wired for safety and quick responses, which ties into the overall theme of how our nervous system keeps us safe and functioning efficiently. Let's walk through the pathway of a reflex action, which is known as the reflex arc. First, the process begins with a stimulus, which could be something like touching a hot surface or pricking your finger. This stimulus is detected by receptors, which are specialized sense organs that sense the change. From there, the sensory nerves carry this information to the spinal cord, acting as the main processing center. Within the spinal cord, the information is quickly processed, and a response is generated. The motor nerves then carry this response from the spinal cord to the effectors. These are usually muscles or glands that execute the response. So, in essence, the reflex arc is the rapid communication pathway that allows us to react instantly to certain stimuli, helping us protect ourselves from harm. This pathway is crucial in understanding how our nervous system responds efficiently and automatically. Let's take a closer look at the reflex arc. This is essentially the pathway that mediates reflex actions, which are rapid, automatic responses to stimuli. The key components of a reflex arc include the sensory receptor, which detects the stimulus, the sensory neuron, which transmits the signal to the central nervous system, the integration center, usually parts of the spinal cord or brain, where the signal is processed, the motor neuron, which carries the response signal away from the CNS, and finally, the effector, which is the muscle or gland that carries out the response. What's really important to understand here is how all these parts work together seamlessly to produce quick, involuntary reactions, like pulling your hand away from something hot. This process highlights the efficiency of our nervous system in protecting us from harm. Connecting this to the overall theme, the reflex arc exemplifies how our nervous system prioritizes speed and automaticity, ensuring our safety without the need for conscious thought. It's a fundamental mechanism that underpins many of our most basic survival responses. Now let's look at the key hormones involved in plant coordination, starting with auxins, which are mainly responsible for cell elongation and directing growth. Then we have cytokinins, which promote cell division and help in the development of new tissues. Moving on to gibberellins, they stimulate stem elongation, seed germination, and flowering. Abscisic acid plays a crucial role in stress responses and helps in seed dormancy. Finally, ethylene is a gas that influences fruit ripening, leaf fall, and responses to stress. These hormones work together to regulate and coordinate the plant's growth and responses to its environment, ensuring the plant develops properly and adapts as needed. Ethylene plays a crucial role in the flowering process and the ripening of fruits. It's actually a gas that helps trigger these developmental stages, making it essential for fruit production and harvest. Moving on, abscisic acid is interesting because it mainly inhibits growth and influences the wilting of leaves, especially during stress conditions like drought. It acts kind of like a growth brake, helping the plant conserve resources. Then we have cytokinins, which are vital for cell division and are also involved in forming fruits and seeds. They promote growth in specific ways that are key for plant development and reproduction. Next up are gibberellins, which mainly support the growth of stems and branches, making plants taller and more robust. They're often used in agriculture to improve crop size. Finally, auxins are fundamental because they help with cell division and elongation, essentially guiding how the plant grows in response to light and gravity. They influence the overall growth pattern, ensuring plants develop properly. All these plant hormones work together to regulate growth and development, which ties back to our overall theme of understanding how plants grow and adapt. Now, let's explore the fascinating world of plant movements. Movements in plants can be broadly categorized into two main types: tropic movements and nastic movements. Tropic movements are directional responses that depend on the direction of the stimulus, such as light or gravity. For example, a plant might bend towards the light in a phototropic response. On the other hand, nastic movements are non-directional responses that occur in reaction to stimuli like touch, temperature, or humidity. These movements are typically quick and repetitive, like the closing of a Venus flytrap or the folding of mimosa leaves. Understanding these two types helps us see how plants adapt and respond to their environment in very specialized ways, which ties into the larger theme of how living organisms interact with their surroundings. Let's talk about how plants respond to different stimuli through what we call tropic movements. These are directional movements that happen in response to specific environmental cues and mainly involve growth. First, there's hydrotropism, which is how plants respond to water. For example, roots tend to grow toward water sources, helping the plant access the moisture it needs. Next, we have geotropism, which is the plant's response to gravity. If the plant grows toward gravity, we call that positive geotropism, like roots growing downward. Conversely, if it grows away from gravity, it's negative geotropism, such as shoots growing upward. Then there's chemotropism, which involves responses to chemical stimuli. An interesting example is the growth of pollen tubes toward the ovule, guiding fertilization. Finally, phototropism is how plants respond to light. When a plant bends toward light, that's positive phototropism, noticeable in shoots. If it bends away from light, that's negative phototropism, like roots growing away from light. All these movements are called tropic movements, and they are crucial because they help plants adapt to their environment by directing growth toward favorable conditions or away from harmful ones. They depend on growth and are key to understanding how plants interact with their surroundings, fitting into the bigger picture of plant adaptation and survival. Let's talk about chemotropism, which is a fascinating aspect of how plants respond to their environment. Essentially, chemotropism refers to the growth or movement of plant parts in response to a chemical stimulus. This is crucial because plants can't move from place to place like animals, so they have developed ways to sense and respond to chemicals in their surroundings. For example, roots often grow toward nutrients or water sources, which are chemical signals indicating a favorable environment. Conversely, they may grow away from harmful substances or toxins. This directional growth helps plants optimize their access to essential resources and avoid damage. Understanding chemotropism connects to the overall theme of plant adaptability and survival. It highlights how plants interpret chemical cues to make vital growth decisions. So, in essence, chemotropism demonstrates the plant's ability to sense its environment chemically and adjust its growth accordingly, ensuring better chances of thriving in diverse conditions. Nastic movements are fascinating because they are non-directional, meaning they don't move specifically toward or away from a stimulus. Unlike other responses that are directional, these movements happen in a way that isn't aimed at the stimulus itself. For example, when you see a plant's leaves fold up or droop, it's not because they're trying to move toward or away from something, but because of internal changes. Importantly, these movements don't depend on growth, so they're not about the plant getting bigger or smaller. Instead, they are quick responses that help the plant react to environmental factors, making them a key part of how plants adapt and survive. This concept ties into our overall theme of plant responses and how they manage their interactions with the environment in unique and interesting ways. The endocrine glands also play a crucial role in control and coordination within our body. They produce chemical substances called hormones that help regulate and synchronize various activities. These hormones act as messengers, ensuring different parts of the body work together smoothly. The main endocrine glands in our body include the pineal gland, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, adrenal glands, pancreas, testes in males, and ovaries in females. Each of these glands has a specific function and produces hormones that influence growth, metabolism, reproduction, and the body's response to stress. Understanding these glands helps us see how our body's internal communication system keeps us functioning optimally. The pituitary gland plays a crucial role in growth and development because it produces growth hormones. When there is a deficiency of this hormone during childhood, it can lead to dwarfism, where individuals are unusually short. Conversely, an excess of growth hormone can cause tall growth, often resulting in conditions like gigantism. Moving on, in males, the testes produce a hormone called testosterone. This hormone is key because it controls the production of sperm and also causes the physical changes we see during puberty, such as increased muscular development and deeper voice. In females, the ovaries produce estrogen, which not only regulates the production of eggs, but also drives many changes during puberty, including breast development and the menstrual cycle. Next, let's talk about iodine. It's essential for the thyroid gland to produce a hormone called thyroxine. This hormone is responsible for controlling our metabolism, which means it helps regulate how our body processes carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Proper levels of thyroxine are vital for healthy growth. If the diet lacks iodine, it can lead to a condition called goiter, which is an enlargement of the thyroid gland. The pancreas is another important gland because it produces insulin. Insulin helps control our blood sugar levels. When blood sugar rises, insulin helps bring it back to normal. However, if this process doesn't work properly, it can lead to diabetes, a condition where blood sugar remains too high. Diabetic patients often need to take insulin injections to manage their blood sugar levels effectively. Finally, when we experience fear or anger, our adrenal glands produce more adrenaline. This hormone is quickly sent through the blood to muscles, including the heart, ribs, and diaphragm. The result is an increased breathing rate and heightened alertness. This prepares our body to either run away from danger or fight, giving us that burst of energy needed in stressful situations. All these examples show how different endocrine glands coordinate various functions in our body, ensuring everything runs smoothly in response to different conditions and stimuli. Let's take a closer look at the endocrine glands in human beings. These glands are essential parts of our body's regulatory system, producing hormones that control many vital functions. You'll notice that these glands are scattered throughout the body, each with a specific role to play. The major endocrine glands include the pituitary gland, often called the master gland because it regulates other glands, the thyroid gland, which influences metabolism, the adrenal glands, involved in stress response and energy production, the pancreas, which has both endocrine and exocrine functions, particularly in blood sugar regulation, and the gonads, which produce sex hormones. Understanding where these glands are located and how they work together is key to grasping the overall function of the endocrine system. This system is fundamental because it helps maintain homeostasis and coordinate growth, development, and reproduction in our bodies. Now, as we wrap up our discussion, let's take a moment to look at the endocrine glands in human beings. These glands play a crucial role in regulating many bodily functions through the production and release of hormones. They include important organs like the pituitary gland, thyroid gland, adrenal glands, pancreas, and gonads, among others. Each of these glands has a specific function and works together to maintain homeostasis and ensure our body systems operate smoothly. Understanding these glands helps us appreciate how our body communicates internally and responds to various stimuli. Remember, the endocrine system is vital for growth, metabolism, reproduction, and overall health. So, I hope this overview gives you a clear picture of how these glands fit into the bigger picture of human physiology and health.